Hi. There are many definitions of love in the English language, and I'm not sure that it's fair to say that love seems to have more definitions than most other words, but it does feel that way sometimes. A lot of them are mundane. Um, I love pizza. Last video when I wore a Hawaiian shirt, I said I love vacationing in Kauai. My wife and I love Scotty dogs. Those are relatively mundane uses of the word love, having to do with just our day-to-day three-dimensional life and saying that we prefer those things over other things, and there's a use for that. There's a place for that usage of the word love in our everyday life, but that's not the subject of this video. I want to get in this video to a little bit of a discussion about the spiritual definitions of love. And I talk in this channel about connecting the dots, and in this case, I guess it's more effective to say I want to disconnect some dots between the kinds of things that I and a lot of us, I'm sure, were taught about God in our childhood and what we are coming to understand about what that term means in our spiritual day-to-day walk as we continue to grow spiritually and raise our vibration. And so I want to talk about the fact that in my childhood, I was definitely taught that God is love. The New Testament of the Bible has that as a verse that can be quoted in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, God is described as a very angry, vengeful being. And I was taught that the whole Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, were the Word of God. They were literally true, I was taught. And I had a hard time reconciling what the Bible said about God, particularly in the Old Testament, and the statement, God is love. I was given a little tiny pocket knife, just a little bitty thing when I was a kid, and it said God is love on it. And I struggle with that. I'm not talking about, when I talk about the Old Testament God, I'm not talking about God per se, but how God is described in the books of the Old Testament. Richard Dawkins, who is a very vocal atheist, said the following in describing how he feels about that character that he calls it, God in the Old Testament. And he goes on to use that quotation to justify believing that there's no such thing as any gods anywhere, I guess, as a vocal atheist. And that's his thing, that's his way of looking at the universe. But I'm presenting it just because I happen to believe him in the way he is saying that God is described in the Old Testament. It's very hard to reconcile that God as described in those ways with love. One of the insights I got when I was writing my book, which I have made reference to in other videos, and there's a description of it in this video below, in the description. My book is called Off the Hook, Escaping Toxic Ideology. In the writing of the book, I got a very interesting insight. And I said, okay, God is love. I was a math major in college, and I know that if something is, it equals. So I can say God equals love. And you don't have to be an advanced mathematician to remember from high school that if A equals B, B equals A. So if God equals love, then love equals God. And I could say love is God. Now we've got something that I can work with in order to move my understanding forward. If I'm starting out with this concept of God that seems to be a rather dubious character in the Old Testament, and say I have to understand what love is in terms of that, I don't get it. But I turn it around the other way, and if I can start with knowing what love is, and I do have a pretty good idea what love is. I've been in love several times in my life, but the relationship I have with my wife, Linda, is the deepest, most profound experience of unconditional love that I've ever had in this lifetime. And I can use that understanding of what love is, what love feels like, and get a little better understanding of what God is. Now, at this point in the evolution of my understanding, when I use the term God, I'm not talking about a being anymore at all. I'm talking about the creative energy that I believe is within each of us. Cash Peters released an audio, it was just an audio meditation 7-8 months ago now, I guess, called All Is Well. And it's something that my wife Linda and I listen to every night before we go to sleep. Still have all this time listen to it, because it's so comforting and so reassuring and such a profound set of teachings. In it, he quotes Eric Butterworth, who says, at least as Cash quotes him, God is not in you like a raisin is in a roll, but like the ocean is in a wave. In other words, each of us is an expression of the creative energy that's in us in a particular form of expression. Each of us has our own personality, our own psyche, our own psychology, our own filters that we use to think about things and perceive things. But we are all individualized expressions of that creative energy, which can be called God in a more enlightened understanding of what that term means to those of us who are spiritually advanced enough to get it, to actually embrace that understanding. So I have been able to use that thinking of love is God to propel myself forward in specific cases that I'd like to share with you, just a practical application of that as I have been able to understand it. It is my goal in this point in my spiritual awakening and enlightenment and development, and however you want to put it, to be of the highest vibration I can all the time. But being human, we all fall off the wagon quite often and don't always live up to that ideal. So in specific cases, like my wife Linda and I experienced not long ago, where we were watching one of the YouTube psychics, and they challenged everybody watching to do a kind of a guided meditation, be quiet, take a deep breath, and close your eyes, and that sort of thing. And as I recall, the objective of that exercise was to collectively send some healing energy to Ukraine. But I was aware that in order to do that, I wanted to get to raise my vibration. I didn't feel like, as I sat down and started listening to this particular video, I was at the highest level of vibration that I'd like to be. So I had in mind this idea of love is God. And I started with the understanding of my best understanding of what love is. I thought about my wife, Linda, and realized that in that relationship, I feel a very deep love. And I was encouraged by this guided meditation, as I recall, to think maybe of a song or a piece of music that would help us propel ourselves into a higher level of being. So I thought of a particular song that worked for me at that moment. And I used that equation, love is God, to propel myself into what felt like a significantly higher vibration than I had started in. And I just throw that out as a practical application of that, as a way to use our understanding of love, and we all have an understanding of what love is, to get to a better understanding of what the creative energy, call it God or whatever you choose to call it, what that is. Starting with God is love didn't work for me, but love is God makes sense. And I have, like I say, have used that in not only to disconnect the dots between what I was taught and find a way to raise my vibration in specific ways and specific times. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Any personal opinions or beliefs that are expressed on this channel are presented strictly as examples, often to show the contrast to childhood teachings. I will never attempt to get you off your path onto mine.